Welcome to another live feed on Shaman's YouTube channel. Let's get into it. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. It's from 1986. Science fiction film. It's the fourth installment in the Star Trek film franchise based on the television series Star Trek. Second film directed by Leonard Nimoy. Completes the story of Ark begin in Star Trek 2, The Wrath of Khan, 1982, and Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock in 1984. Its intent on returning home to Earth to face consequences for their actions in the previous film. The crew of the USS Enterprise finds the planet in grave danger from an alien probe attempting to contact now extinct humpback whales. The crew travel to Earth's past to find whales who can answer the probe's call. Star William Shatner, Leonard Nimoy, DeForest Kelly, James Doohan, George Takei, Walter Koenig, and Nichelle Nichols. This movie was released on November 26, 1986. On a $21 to $25 million budget, the box office it grossed $133 million. After directing The Search for Spock, Nimoy was asked to direct the next feature, given greater freedom regarding the film's content. Nimoy and producer Harve Bennett conceived a story with an environmental message and no clear-cut villain. The stats for the first screenplay produced by Steve Mearson and Peter Kreitz. Paramount Pictures hired the Wrath of Khan writer and director Nicholas Meyer. And Meyer and Bennett divided the story between them and wrote different parts of the script, requiring approval from Nimoy, lead actor William Shatner, and executives at Paramount. The principal photography comments on February 24, 1986. Like previous Star Trek films, The Voyage Home was shot extensively on location, using many real settings, buildings for scenes set around in the city of San Francisco. Special effects firm Industrial Light and Magic assisted post-production and film's special effects. Few of the humpback whales in the film were real. ILM devised full-size animatronics and small motorized models to stand in for the real creatures. The film was dedicated to the crew of the Space Shuttle Challenger, broke up 73 seconds after takeoff on the morning of January 28, 1986. So this movie was grossed as the top grossing film of the weekend for its box office is concerned on November 26, 1986 in North America by Paramount Pictures and became the top grossing film at the weekend box office because of the film's acting, humor, direction, special effects, conventional story were well received by critics, fans of the series, and the general audience. It's financially successful. It grossed $133 million worldwide, earning several awards, 4 Academy Awards nominations for cinematography and sound. It was followed by Star Trek V, The Final Frontier in 1989. So production before the Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock was released, its director, Leonard Nimoy, was asked to return to direct the next film in the Star Trek franchise. Whereas Nimoy had been under certain constraints in filming the previous picture, Paramount Pictures gave the director greater freedom for the sequel. Paramount said flat out that they wanted my vision, Nimoy recalled. In contrast to the drama-heavy and operatic events of the 3 previous Star Trek features, Nimoy and producer Harve Bennett wanted a lighter movie that did not have a clear-cut villain. As William Shatner was unwilling to return, Nimoy and Bennett spent 8 months considering a prequel concept by Ralph Winter about the characters at Starfleet Academy before Shatner received a pay increase and signed on to star. Nimoy and Shatner each received $2.5 million for the film, less than their original demands, but the film cast rising salaries caused Paramount to create a new television series entitled Star Trek The Next Generation. And they take several less expensive, lesser known actors. Despite Shatner's doubts, Nimoy and Bennett selected a time travel story in which the Enterprise crew encounters a problem that could only be fixed by something only available in the present day. They considered ideas about violin makers and oil drillers or disease that had its cure destroyed with rainforests, but the depiction of thousands of sick and dying people seemed rather gruesome for our light-hearted film. The thought of our crew taking a 600-year round trip to bring back a snail daughter wasn't all that thrilling. Explain more. The director read a book on extinct animals, conceived the storyline that was eventually adopted. Nimoy hit upon the idea of humpback whales, the talking with a friend. Their song added ministry to the story, and their size added logistical challenges that heroes would have to overcome. Nimoy approached William Hill's cop writer Daniel Petrie Jr. to write the screenplay when a concept that executive producer Jeffrey Katzenberg described as either the best or worst idea in the world arose. Star Trek fan Eddie Murphy wanted a starring role. Nimoy Murphy acknowledged his part would attract non-Star Trek fans to the franchise following the rising popularity of Murphy, but also meant the film might be ridiculed because Steve Merson, Peter Krikes were hired to write a script that Murphy, as a college professor who believes in aliens, likes to play whale songs. But Eddie Murphy disliked the part and chose to make the Golden Child. Paramount was also averse to the idea of combining two of their strongest franchises of the era, fearing that affair could damage them both. The character intended for Murphy was combined with those of a marine biologist and a female reporter to become Gillian Taylor. Paramount was decided with the script, so its head of production, Dawn Steele, asked Nicholas Meyer, the writer and director of Star Trek II, the Wrath of Khan, to help rewrite it. So Meyer never read the earlier script, reasoning it pointless to do so. Since the content had no appeal to the studio, he and Bennett split the task of conceiving the plot between them. Bennett wrote the first quarter of the story up to the point where the crew goes back in time. Meyer wrote the story's middle portion, taking place on 20th century Earth. Bennett handled the ending. After 12 days of writing, Meyer and Bennett combined their separate portions. And Taylor stays on 1986 Earth, vows to ensure the survival of the humpback well despite the paradox it could create. Meyer preferred this writer ending to the film version, explaining the end in the movie detracts from the importance of people in the present taking the responsibility, ecology, preventing problems of the future by doing something today, rather than carried into the fantasy desires of being able to be transported in time to the near utopian future. Stuff like that. This is some of the stuff that took place with this situation as far as the production of this movie. The opening scenes aboard the starship Saratoga were the first to be shot. Principal photography commenced on February 24th, 1986. The set was a redress of the science vessel Grissom Bridge from the search for Spock to, in turn, a redress of the Enterprise Bridge created for the motion picture. The scenes were filmed first to allow time for the set to be revamped as a bridge of the new Enterprise A at the end of filming. But as with previous Star Trek films, existing props and footage were used where possible to save money. The Voyage Home required less of this than previous films. Earth space dock carriers and control booth sets were used from the search for Spock. Although the computer monitors in these scenes featured new graphics, the old reels had deteriorated in storage. So stock footage of the destruction of the Enterprise and the Bird of Prey's movement through space were used, while the Bird of Prey bridge was a completely new design. Other parts of the craft's interior were also redresses. The computer room was a modification of the reactor's room where Spock died in Wrath of Khan. After other Bird of Prey bridge scenes were completed, the entire set was painted white for one shot that transitioned into a dream sequence during the time travel. The Voyage Home was the first Star Trek film to distinctly film location. Only one day was spent so that in the search for Spock, much of the production was filmed in and around San Francisco during 10 days of shooting. Production wanted to film scenes that were really identifiable as the city. The use of extensive location shooting caused logistical problems, such as a scene in which Kirk is nearly run over by an irate cab driver requiring 12 to 15 cars to be repositioned if the shot was incorrect, taking a half an hour to reshoot. Other scenes were filmed in the city but used sets rather than local locations, such as an Italian restaurant where Taylor and Kirk eat. In the film, the Bird of Prey lands cloaked in Golden State Park. Surprising trashmen who flee the scene in their truck. The production had planned to film in the real park, where they had filmed scenes for the Wrath of Khan. The heavy rains before the day of the shoot prevented it. The garbage truck would have become bogged down in the mud, where Rogers Park in western Los Angeles was used instead. Right, it's a lot of information with this, but you get the gist of what was this movie was about, the behind the scenes, what was going on, and stuff like that. So I'm not gonna get into all the details with everything else, the music and everything, the sound of it. But it did well in box office, man. It did very well. It ended the Crocodile Dundee's 8-week reign as far as the American box office. That in the first week, it made 39.6 million in its first 5 days of release, exceeding the Search for Spock's opening by 14 million. Ultimately, the film grossed a global total of 133 million against its 21 to $25 million budget in the cost. In 6 weeks, the Voyage Home sold 81.3 million tickets, more than the franchise's second or third film, almost as much as Star Trek the Motion Picture. The film was a major commercial success for Paramount, and which released 5 of the 10 films of the year, 5 of the top 10 films of the year, and garnered 22% of all money taken in at American theaters. Much of the credit of Paramount's success was given to Chairman Frank Mancuso Sr., who moved the Voyage Home's release from Christmas to Thanksgiving after research showed that the film might draw filmgoers away from the Golden Child. The Voyage Home garnered 11 nominations at the 14th Annual Saturn Awards, tying Aliens for most nominations. Nimoy and Shatner were nominated for Best Actor for roles. Catherine Hicks was nominated for Best Supporting Actress. At the 59th Academy Awards, The Voyage Home was nominated for Best Cinematography Sound. Terry Porter, David J. Hudson, Mel Metcalf, Gene Canamessa. Sound effects and editing, original score. Let's look at this, man. Star Trek 4, The Voyage Home. Come back later with another, about the top of the hour, another live feed. Got 2 more to go, and that'll be it for the day. Until then, talk to you soon.